At Breathe California, we know that when we want to get something done, we have to find a volunteer who is willing to put in lots of extra hours to make it happen. And we found that volunteer in Bob Garzee, who brought in his ETDC to do the master design for this whole project. Thanks, Bob.
As the team leader for the school bus retrofit project from Breathe, California, I wanted to show the master strategy that we've developed to include all the partners that can come together to make this happen. On the chart, as you see, it's very busy, but that's because there's lots of partners. Here we have the solar fueling and power management, which is CH Reynolds, and they provide the power for the buses to run. In other words, the fuel, which is clean. And then we have the building security, which is the ability to take this technology and transfer it down to the building in case you want to have controlled access as well as television cameras. We have training, which is important that the mechanics and the veterans that we're bringing into the project can go in and install the kits. And then we have the Health Trust, which is something we're so proud of that we earned their right to be the company that was funded for this project over many others that were interviewed. And again, we have the green team, which is very important to this project, which is made up of these three different kinds of companies working together.
I'm Margot Seidner, and I'm the CEO of Breathe California, the Bay Area, and I'm a co-coordinator for Silicon Valley Clean Cities Coalition.
Could you tell me what Clean Cities is all about?
Clean Cities is a Department of Energy program that is focused on reducing consumption of oil and thereby doing a lot of other things, such as getting rid of our foreign dependency and a lot of good things for America.
And what is the correlation between Breathe California, Clean Cities, and fleet school buses?
Well, Breathe California is the clean air and healthy lungs leader here in our community, and we're naturally concerned about vehicle emissions because that's the largest single source of emissions here in the Bay Area. So for a long time, we've been focused on having cleaner school buses so that people will use the school buses instead of driving individually one at a time to drop their children off and sitting out there idling and having really high emissions. And also so that all of our buses are clean and have fewer emissions.
Excellent. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, we're really excited because just imagine if every school, no matter how little income they have, could have available to them clean, healthy school buses and clean, safe, healthy school buses. So this project that we have through the Disruptive Innovation Grant at Health Trust is really exciting to us because we think we can turn school transportation on its head and make electric vehicles not just the exclusive venue of the elite schools, but can show that they can be cost effective for all schools. We call our project Zero Emission Squared because in looking at emissions, you have to look at both the emissions from the fuel itself and the emissions for the vehicles, how they run and operate on that fuel. And so if you can fuel up low emission or no emission vehicles.
The Health Trust's interest in this project particularly was because of disruptive innovation. This is one of our disruptive innovation grants. And so let me talk a little bit about or describe what that is and then describe how Breathe California really met that criteria.
Thank you.
So 2 years ago, we brought out Dr. Clay Christensen from the Harvard Business School. And Dr. Christensen has developed this theory of disruptive innovation. And what that means is there a solution to a problem that's cheaper, that addresses more people or clients, that's more available, and that uses technology in some way to make that innovation disruptive? Mm-hmm. So something could be innovative, it's a good idea, a new approach, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's disruptive. What makes it disruptive is does it affect the rest of the market in terms of changing how the rest of the market delivers that service or product. So you're trying to get something good enough, something that can be available to more people because it's cheaper. Sometimes you use a less qualified person or a differently qualified person to get that cost savings, and almost always use technology. So when we looked at the Breathe California grant, it was for us a winner in a couple of different ways. First of all, it's an innovative approach in being able to say, let's take this need of transportation, which is very costly, very entrenched in school districts. School districts cannot not provide these services. It's really a necessary service, but it's a very expensive one. It can only be delivered in certain kinds of certified school buses that are run by certain types of fuel. So you can't really save any money unless you really become innovative. So Breathe California, coming together with different partners from the government, from the private sector, and from the public sector philanthropy, pulling those teams together for us is always a win, because that's a collaboration that will really make sense if we get to the disruptive part, which I'll get to. But simply to get the innovation of saying, let's try a different way of fueling, a different way of creating the energy source for these buses reduces the cost. So you can provide more services to more people at a cheaper cost because of the fact that you're using technology and changing the fuel system for the school bus. You're also recycling that school bus, so you have a whole other way of reducing that cost. So cost savings is already, the criteria is already met. But then if you start to look at, is it good enough service and kind of spreading it, it goes beyond just cheaper transportation means. If you do that, school districts then are saving money. If school districts are saving money, what can they do with those savings? Well, they can return them in different ways so that children actually win by this as well, because there's new money available to a school district to do other kinds of things that will more directly affect school learning. We also see that the environment around that school, the days of school buses with black smoke coming out of them and sitting there, are over, if you will, if our innovation really works and disrupts the entire system. So children win because they will not have these contaminants, especially in low-income communities, which is the Health Trust's big interest. We'll reduce those contaminants in low-income communities. That's an incredible win for those children, families, the teaching staff, the folks that are in those environments where those contaminants are really at its highest. And then if we look at this as a disruption, if we really are successful in this pilot, we can disrupt the entire way that transportation is provided to schools all over the state and all over the country. There's no reason why this Silicon Valley intervention and innovation can't sweep across the nation. And think about the impact of if we can reduce, if we can increase the clean energy use, reduce the contaminants, bring school money back to school districts or that they're spending on transportation to be able to pay for other kinds of expenses, as well as improve the health of the community that the children and the families are living in. How is that not a great investment, especially when you look at it coming from Silicon Valley, the home of innovation? So we know that this is going to be an innovative approach, but what we're really looking at is how we can make this a disruptive innovation where we really change the entire way this industry looks at school transportation, the design and the manufacturing of buses, and the ways that we see those yellow buses throughout the country have a different impact on the children and the families in the community. And ultimately, that's a huge health change that we can affect by this disruptive innovation.
Well, I think we're going from an era of a diesel-powered vehicle that really had very low emission controls, but was the quality engine at the time to be on the road to do heavy-duty equipment, to a new technology that's out there to clean up the diesel engine, to give us a technology that is hybrid system that will give us better miles per gallon, give us a cleaner ride. If we turn around and we take our older equipment like this and take the running gear out of it, it's a good quality bus that can be here for many, many years. Take the old equipment out of it, install new electric systems in the drive systems for it. We've got ourselves a clean bus, we've got ourselves a good bus, we've got 100%, and we've done it for a value that is works for the school district to be able to afford to be able to go to new technology and have a clean bus for the kids to ride every day.
School districts just scrap buses. Is that a huge waste of money?
It is a huge waste of money because we're paying somewhere in the neighborhood of between $100,000 and $130,000 for a bus.
Per bus?
Per bus.
Wow.
So if you figure that bus has got maybe diesel engine life of 5, 6, 7 years before you're going to maybe do an overhaul on that thing, why spend the money to overhaul that thing when you can take and put a package into it, make it true electric? And what are we standing in today? Nothing but solar power.
True.
You've got solar charging to be used. You know, when I was operating the 2 electric buses we have here, it was costing me roughly about 4 cents a mile, compared to at the time probably about 37 cents a mile to run a fueled bus.
Okay.
So you're talking about cost effectiveness jumps up in value. You're not scrapping out an old bus. You're keeping that bus on the road and using it for what it's meant to do the job for, but you're doing it in a clean way. You're getting free charge time for that vehicle. The technology zeroes in on what it takes to do a retrofit to a vehicle, because you want to try to make it as simple as possible and as inexpensive as possible to do a retrofit like that. And it's a system that we can maintain when it becomes the district's vehicle, instead of having high-paid technicians having to come in and work on this new technology for us. I think it's a thing that my mechanics can be trained to deal with that equipment and work with that equipment.
I guess the most important reason that fleet mechanics need to be trained on school bus retrofits into electricity is that the mechanics know the buses. They already know the buses, how to work on them, and the rest of the whole bus. This electric part is just a new type of drive system that they need to be trained on. In order to work on it safely, you have to be trained on the high voltage aspect of it, and if you're not, you could damage yourself or the bus. So the beautiful thing about getting this training also is that you are enhancing your job skills to make you retainable and hireable in the future. You may want to change jobs at some point, or you may want to stay there, and you're going to have to go and be trained on new technologies in order to stay employed. With the times are changing. The old way that we used to do business with gasoline cars and diesel buses and things like that are going away, because we simply can't support the oil consumption and the emissions to our environment. So with the government changing standards to make it tighter and harder for these gasoline and diesel vehicles to be on the road, they're going to have to go to electric vehicles. And this is not just something that they want to do, they're going to have to do it. In order for mechanics to stay retainable and employed in that fleet, you're going to have to get training so that you can stay abreast of the new technology, so that they don't have to go out and hire someone new to replace you, that you can keep your job and change with the times.
Thanks, Bob. On behalf of CH Rentals, I'd like to thank Bob Garzi, who invited us to be part of this project. It's a very exciting time for all of us to show how combining solar power and power management, you can use your power more efficiently. Our system allows you to use a solar array to offset the cost of the electrical that you use to charge your school bus for either peak or off-peak times. This CH Reynolds solution is unique in the industry because it uses patented cyber switching power management technology combined with the electrical expertise of CH Reynolds to install the solar array and the power management systems. Installing the solar array offsets the cost of the electricity used to charge the electric school buses, which reduces the cost compared to diesel-fueled buses, which in turn is good for the environment, specifically the Breathe California and California Health Trust, which has the Zero Emission Squared initiative. Our patented power management technology gives the user the ability to schedule time for off-peak hours, which reduces electrical cost. By giving power back to the grid during peak hours, helps the utility grid. And charging the buses during off-peak time helps reduce the cost of operation. By using the combination of these two technologies provided by CH Reynolds and cyber switching, it makes a very unique solution in the industry. And I'd like to thank the Gilroy School District, members of our team that made all this possible, and especially Bob Garzi, who always tells us this is like motherhood and apple pie. It just makes sense. Thank you.
Also for diesel,
At 4 whatever gallon.
due to the exhaust system it has on it
Uh-huh.
for California.
And it takes about how many people?
50.
About 50. So so basically it's doing 2 trips a day, correct?
Correct. In the morning and in the afternoon.
And then how long does it sit in the yard? I mean,
Usually sits in the yard about 5 hours, 6 hours.
So it could be charging during that time.
Correct.
Perfect. And this is a Bluebird what again?
All American.
All-American. Bluebird All-American. Wow.
ISC.
Gilroy Unified School District, and I do energy education.
And it's nice to meet you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Brief California's relationship with the school, Gilroy School District.
Well, for the past 9 years, Gilroy Unified and Breathe California have been working with students on anti-smoking campaigns and teaching them about tobacco, what it'll do to your lungs, what it'll do to secondhand smoke, that kind of thing. We've been working together on that. So when Breathe California approached us about doing a solar electric powered bus, we were very interested in the project. We have an aggressive energy program currently, And it's all about reducing emissions in the air, cutting down our costs in utilities, water, gas, sewer, and electric. And this tied in nicely with that program.
Thank you very much. So segue right into energy reduction and budgets.
Well, across the state of California, Gilroy Unified is not unique because most transportation budgets have been drastically cut. 4 years ago, we had as many as, I think, 25 to 40 routes,
Wow.
and now we're down to 7.
From 40 routes to 7?
Because the transportation budgets have been cut so much.
Wow.
But we're not having our preschoolers or kindergartners or, all the way up to high school. They're not driving themselves to school. So now you have families having to drive every single child in, which is causing traffic problems. We're having emissions, are on the rise because we're taking each family has their own car instead of 1 or 2 buses taking the kids around.
Reducing emissions and trying to get off of diesel fuels. How important is that to you?
Well, it's not only critical to the atmosphere, but it also, cost-wise, we pay $4 to $4.50 a gallon right now. And with the solar bus, it's going to be down to 45 cents a gallon.
Wow.
So this could completely change transportation for school districts. What's been cut for years due to finances, we might be able to bring back. Then there are fewer families that have to drive to the school. There'll be fewer traffic issues, which mean there are fewer traffic police needed. So overall, it's going to help the community as a whole. But then it helps the state as a whole by reducing the emissions and keeping the air.
We believe this is a truly significant project that can be taken across the United States, even though all the partners started in Silicon Valley.
Seidner. I'm President and CEO of Breathe California of the Bay Area.
On behalf of the Health Trust, we're excited to be a part of this event this morning. Not only because of the tremendous potential a fleet of these buses possess towards reducing asthma in children who ride them daily or live near their routes where they frequent, but also because of the creative spirit in which this project was developed. By applying the theory of disruptive innovation, this project combined partners from the nonprofit and for-profit partnerships to take on the challenge of lowering diesel emissions while dealing with the safety and regulatory issues associated with school transportation. And they came up with a solution that may very well go a long way towards eliminating health disparities of asthma in children and making Silicon Valley the healthiest region in America for everyone. So once again, on behalf of the Health Trust, we're really excited about this project, and we hope to see many more of these buses on the road shortly. Thank you.
I'm Edward Montfort. I'm the inventor of the system of the bus, and I've also got some inventions in the past, as you might see at Home Depot with the coal-fired drill bits, so I've got some pretty good past about me as well. But one of the main concerns we have about the bus is safety. This is a school bus, so the system that I designed into it is totally redundant. As you look at the front of the bus, it's the same system as what you see in the Chevy Volt for hooking up the Chevy Volt. Then you get back to the battery packs, and I've used all my aerospace connections and technologies because I did a lot of work with the aerospace communities, Lockheed Martin, NASA, and other companies, even the magnetics lab. We use the semiconductor fusion. We use like the Lockheed type connectors. I separated all the batteries to where it's very safe. And then you get back to the engine compartment, it's all redundant there as well. A lot safer than a diesel bus. And as you know, a lot cleaner. You're not breathing any fumes from a diesel anymore. But on our system, a motor goes out, a backup motor, one of the motors takes over, the controller takes over. Then you get around to the, we have a 24 volt system that's maintained very well as well. And then as you go to the dash, it's pretty much electronic, but it's one thing, it's very cost effective. So as you can see, we've taken over and above on the safety on the bus. But as you know, it didn't cost anything for the school. Thanks to a lot of investors really put a lot of money into this. This is not an easy technology to develop, but I'm telling you, what we have right now, we're well on our way. And there's a lot of companies looking at us right now, and we really appreciate what the Health Trust has done for us, and Margot, and Bob, and Breathe California, and also Keevan and Stewart has actually worked with us on the bus a little bit. It's pretty easy to work on. We keep about 90% of the OEM parts. So if there's an OEM part, Stewart jumps in or Hector jumps in. Hector's been a big part of it as well. I'm going to be around for a lot of, if you guys have any questions, we're also going to go on bus rides later. But I wanted to thank you. I love California. It's beautiful out here. I'm going to move to California now. But once again, thank you very much.